All right. Welcome, everyone. This is the second ADRF session of the day. But this time, we're going to talk about the ADRF user community. We're going to have a collective look at the projects, tools, and talk about what's next. So let me start with this one. My name is Didem Tuzemen. I am Vice President of Research at Coleridge. And I am joined by Rich Ferguson, our Chief Technology Officer, and John Mills, Vice President of Data Enclave Operations. Just a quick overview. We're going to talk about Coleridge's user community project. We're going to then talk about what's new. John will tell us about some updates. Then we're going to move to Rich, who's going to tell us about AI in action. And then we're going to finish with your Q&A, and then hopefully we're going to have a lot of feedback from you guys. All right. So the ADRF User Community Project, as the name suggests, is taking ADRF to be more than a platform. So we want it to be a community where ADRF users come to the ADRF for their projects, but they also discuss the problems they're facing, share their ideas, and then also give us feedback so we can together determine the progress to be made in the ADRF. Okay, so 3 important points here. One is sharing knowledge. So we want to build, and we have been building, a community where there are events where the ADRF users get together, listen to some important tools from subject matter experts. They share their expertise with their peers. And we also have a resource hub where they can share information there. The second important thing is problem solving. So no one organization or no one person has all the answers. We want the users to come together as a community, share best practices, share how they're doing different types of analyses, and really do the problem solving together. And then, of course, the third one is continuing progress. We need your help. We need your insights, feedback, so we can know how to better assist you in the ADRF. We can know which tools are needed in the ADRF and really determine the next steps for the ADRF. So this is what this community project has been about. Last year, we held 6 community events where some subject matter experts came, some of our advisory board members came and talked to the users. There were users talking to each other, sharing information. We talked about coding best practices. We talked about coding in R, SQL, etc. And then we had a demo of the past, and we're going to talk about some updates. And of course, we talked about AI as our last meeting. And of course, there is more to come. We're going to have another event later this year. And of course, we're going to have an advisory board meeting. And that brings me to the advisory board. Let me take a moment to thank them again. Advisory board members are meeting with us regularly and give us direction on how ADRF is doing, because they're all users of the ADRF, but also how we can improve our services there. So Robert McCoo, Chief Data Officer, State of Arkansas, Angie Tombari, Director of Research Partnerships and Chief Methodologist, Kentucky Center for Statistics, Ellie Hartman, Chief Evaluation Officer for the Workforce Data Integration System, Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development, and Dante D'Antonio, Senior Director at Moody's Analytics. So we're very grateful for their help to us on bettering our ADRF. All right, with that, let me move to John to continue on the updates to the Coleridge Pass.
Great. Hi, everyone. So John Mills, Vice President of Data Enclave Operations with Coleridge. I want to show you, do you mind? F12. Awesome, great, thank you.
I just have to stand up.
So yeah, I'm going to be walking through. So I'm going to show some information on Coleridge Pass, which is it's our access tool, but it's also a place where you can learn about usage by individuals on projects. So it can be information for data stewards, information for project users, also the project team leads. The one other thing I want to show, so this will be just kind of in general, this is about the user community, it's about efforts that we're trying to do to make the user experience just easier. I just always think of this as like, this is all trying to be built so that people can get in and do the work. So we want to make it so that, you know, if I'm a researcher, I don't need to learn all the different ways and hoops that I got to jump through, all the different types of tools. I want to know, get me the information I can to get in so I can do that analysis that I want to do. So we've done a refresh of our user guide. This is available to users through Coleridge's website. It just kind of walks through the process in a little bit more intuitive a way. We also have this, getting this into the ADRF so that there's some really helpful information in there for users, especially of databases, on how they can connect. A big issue historically has been the information's outside the ADRF. Now I have to get my code in. It's like, well, let's just bring that code in for you. Another thing is, so I'm going to go into the ADRF here. We have now, care of Rich, you can easily just sign into the ADRF. You don't have to remember the code that you got in an email. Instead, you can just go to Coleridge's website, coleridge.us. You can sign in directly through the ADRF there. And now I'll get into Pass. So Pass was announced last year. The origins of this, I started at Coleridge almost 5 years ago, and at the time there was an application called the Data Stewardship app, which was the first version to be able to see like how are individuals using data in the ADRF. But it wasn't really about context. It was basically, hey, look, there's a lot of hours. And I remember when I first got at Coleridge, I was saying, oh, that's cool. I worked yesterday. How many hours did I work? Wow, that's great. But after that, it was like I didn't really use the tool because I didn't need to see how many hours I worked from there on. So we've been working, the second iteration of that was called the Management Portal, and Pass is just a kind of a big change that has helped us work with making it easier and quicker to provision workspaces, et cetera. But this part I'm going to be talking more about from a user's perspective. Some of you might not have seen this, so I just wanted to show because it was announced last year. If you're ADRF users, you would say, yes, I am familiar with that. So right now I have, I'm actually impersonating Katerina, who has been a huge help on our user community project. There she is. She really doesn't like to be pointed out, so I will do so. So and you can think of a Katerina as being like a researcher. So this is a researcher view on what Pass provides. You have information on the workspaces. Any ADRF user is going to find that familiar with the original onboarding page. They can find overview on their workspaces. In that workspace look, they can see, again, what we were talking about earlier, you can see data sets, you can see information on usage. I'll come back to this, but you can see this is a place now that you can get your exports from that have been approved. You can submit support tickets, you can give feedback. The support ticket queue, I remember for those who came to the user community session last year, I probably was too excited about, as a researcher, it just was so helpful that now you can do support tickets inside this platform, as opposed to going and tracking down many different emails. I can say, where am I in the queue? What's the status? So that's a researcher's look, but embedded in Pass is basically, there's a lot of different views that are available to users based off of their roles. So for data stewards, you can see I'm switched into my admin role, so I see basically a little bit more, or I see more information about the workspaces, information on, for us, the contracts, a lot of so when I am ready to create a workspace, I can go and enter all that in there. But I can see higher level views, I can see information on usage, how many, like the entire wave of projects. We have a data catalog of all the data sets that are in the ADRF. And then now I'm going to jump into, basically going into this workspace here. This is a demo workspace. And I'm just pointing it out because I'm already in it. But that demo workspace, this is an environment that we use just for demonstration. We're not looking at actual data, but you can see that in coming in here, there's a similar looking dashboard to pass. It is colored red, and that's basically trying to tell the user in many ways, you are now within a workspace. This is a secure environment. Pass, the blue pass, it sits outside. There's metadata information. You can submit project requests and other types of tickets in there. But now you're back in your workspace in that computer lab, and you're getting ready to do the work. Great. So this is what we call secure pass, or I just call it red pass. But basically, it's the entryway. It takes over for what was the ADRF Getting Started page. We've got documentation for users. We've got information on pass, how to use it. We've got some frequently updated or asked questions. Going to the user guide. So we actually are getting the user guide into pass. So again, you don't have to import or type in your code. You could just copy in some of the, we're hosting that query code in the user guide. So you could just go and say, I use R. I need access to a database. I don't want to go to the database to do that. Instead, I want to write R to pull from that database. Here's the code that you can use to pull that and work with it, as opposed to having to try and figure it out. Go back. I was going to talk about so this is the export, the legacy export module. So any ADRF user, you'd be very familiar with this. Anything that comes out of the ADRF has to undergo a disclosure review. And we'll do that in 2 stages. We'll have Coleridge team does a cursory review, kind of quick scan of the data, or quick scan of what has been submitted, and then we'll have comprehensive reviews that are done by data stewards or export reviewers. So they're the content knowledge people that are running through it. This all was done in the ADRF export module, which is in the ADRF, so it's all within that secure facility. This is the old module, and we've now are moving. We're keeping it there just to help people as they transition, but now I'm going to show what we're doing with this new export module. This is kind of the type of thing where if you haven't used it before, you might not understand how much easier this makes things. So if you are not an ADRF user right now, I will try and ride on my excitement about this. So I'm going to go ahead and walk through. One is, I'm in the workspace. That means that the export module knows that I am in, this is my workspace, it's permission to these data, and these are the export rules. I now can see basically my queue, the history of my exports that I have. This is just looking at like, oh, I've done an export, the date, the status it was approved, my documented files. Creating an export request, I can put in information on what is the intended outcome of this. Basically, it's helpful to know, and especially as we think about building a community, and something that we get from data providers all the time is, great, I know the hours that someone spent in the ADRF, but I would also like to know how much of the work that is being done is translating into publications. Well, the best person to understand what the intended goal of this export is the person who's submitting it. So they can tell us, yeah, I'm submitting this export for this purpose. They can identify other individuals on their team in the workspace that can receive the export if it passes. Provide some information on the data. This is a test. And can add in, just do a nice easy drag and drop to submit a file. Got this in here. Created an export test. Just drag it down. Great, now my export request is ready to go. Go ahead and upload the file. Oops, I just did. Go ahead and click submit down here. Get a reminder. Submit the export request. Export request is now in the queue. I get documentation of where I am. If I want to check on the status, it's now in the queue telling me it's awaiting a reviewer. Basically, you know if it is at the cursory stage, you'll get your feedback in here if something is rejected. And then also, now, as opposed to getting a secure email, the exports are available to the user in their workspace. So let me show you quickly how we do that. Which demo was that? I forget the name of the workspace. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. That is not what I'm looking for. found that the ergonomic keyboard that I've gotten is really great until I have to type on my laptop again. The same one. Not sure why it's not. Well, I can show you a video, but I'm not oh, that's why. It's because I'm on project requests. Sorry about that. I can go to the project. I can go to the exports. These are the approved exports. I'm seeing the ones that I have been approved to see. I can now download these files instead of, again, having to go back into the emails. And I think a lot of that is just cutting down on the user experience of remembering, you know the file, you get the file when you want it, but if you want to go back and get it a few months later, you want to check. Now you have a documented history of everything that has been approved. Another update to show that we're working on getting out to that user guide is we've also provided, created a bunch of videos. A lot of the issues that we get with users are that it's kind of like you're thrown into the deep end and go figure out how to get around this environment. So we've created videos that walk you through how to navigate the ADRF, videos on how to find and access your data. Are your data in the structured, are they in the G drive, the unstructured data? Are they in DS schemas? How, just like a quick walkthrough, like a 2-minute video that basically says, here's the keys, you can actually see what you need to do. And then also for that export module, we have walkthroughs of all of the steps that I just showed, and including basically not fumbling around, but actually finding the export that was approved and being able to download it. So that's just some of the updates that we've been doing to the ADRF, and I'm going to hand it over to Rich to talk about some of the kind of future dev environments that are happening.
Okay, let's check this out. Well, hello everybody, Rich Ferguson. A year ago I was able to demo the export module kind of concept, and now I'm going to show you, we're going to show it to you here live. But first I need to make sure I've got cell phone Wi-Fi working, hotspot. Hold on 1 second. I got can you move it over to the HDMI? There we go. Thank you, sir. Okay, so he just showed us what that looked like, the new pass and secure pass. But just to reiterate that secure pass is air-gapped, and it's very hard to do development in an air-gapped environment. Do you know what I mean? It's very hard. So just the ability for us to promulgate data into the production environment is revolutionary, because it's just and do it on a FedRAMP platform. So I'm really here to talk about AI, and I know we've been talking about, everybody here seems to be talking about AI. It reminds me of a CompuServe conference in 1987, and everybody was talking about the internet and AOL. Very similar. I was only 4 at the time when that happened. But why is AI is hard to explain? Doesn't it seem like it's hard? It seems like, what is it? Like, we're using it, it seems like it just kind of got a mind of its own, it's running on its own. I have a great video to show you what that means to the world and just bear with me, because this is 1987, just like I said. This is what the internet looked like, and I'm going to explain. This guy explains AI. This is how people are explaining AI to me right now.
With customer success as our primary focus, work has been proceeding on the crudely conceived idea of an instrument that would not only provide inverse reactive current for use in unilateral phase detractors, but would also be capable of automatically synchronizing cardinal gram meters. Such an instrument comprised of Dodge gears and bearings, Reliant electric motors, Allen Bradley controls, and all monitored by Rockwell software is Rockwell Automation's Retro-Encabulator. Now basically, the only new principle involved is that instead of power being generated by the relative motion of conductors and fluxes, it's produced by the modial interaction of magneto-reluctance and capacitive diractance.
Okay, you guys get the point, right? It's crazy. AI is crazy. And I know it's crazy because my son, who's a junior in high school, has got straight A's. That shows me something has changed in the world. Okay, so what really is AI? Seriously. First, it can classify and detect patterns. By the way, almost anything alive can do that. So it's not anything new. It can estimate what's happening, the next thing that's going to happen. It's really good at that. And it can produce things in visual or maybe in text that we didn't expect. So basically, it does what a lot of things already do. It just does it so well that it's scary, right, at times. And the other, we had another breakout, and I mentioned that one of my conversations with somebody is that this is an evil genius that's going to take over the world, but really it's more like a Labrador Retriever, just really wants to help. I'm afraid of it, but I also love it. So it's this weird place to be. How are we implementing AI? Because it is kind of scary and it is kind of complex and it doesn't always follow the rules. We built 2 applications, and I need to start with just saying that the applications have not been approved for the federal government into the ADRF, but we are very close. It's taking a lot of time because they're trying to grasp what it is that AI can do at scale on a platform that's got federal and state data located. There's a lot of state rules that we have to abide by. There's a lot of federal rules. The first application we built is called the AI Export Assistant. And what that does is it really triages risk in your exports. The number one risk that we have in the ADRF of moving data is from the enclave to the customer. That's where the most risk is. And we decided, just as a group of people just collaborating, that why don't we use AI to reduce that risk? Instead of just doing AI do all these other things, we'll use AI to help us in our mission. And that does it, we built it in a secure air-gapped environment called the ADRF. I know you guys are all familiar, but it's on the GovCloud. So we only use GovCloud products that are approved to be in the ADRF, and we're kind of repackaging AWS's approved platform already. We are adamant about keeping a human in the loop. We're going to demo this in a minute. I know Eddie's over there sweating because he's got to show it to you guys. And then what it does is it's designed to be end-to-end. So we showed a little bit last year about how we're using GitLab to promulgate not just exports, but also code. You'll be able to share code, but that also works the same way with the AI agents. So as you implement your export, you want to export your code, AI can take a look at it and determine whether there's any risk in your code. And the risk would be things like, I'm sure you guys know this, PII, PHI, but even more important, it's going to export the rules that you said you wanted us to hold you accountable for, those data sharing agreements, the stuff that our contracts people are told you that you need. So maybe you don't disclose the wrong things. AI is going to help you with that through a scoring mechanism. And with that, I'm going to hand this over to Eddie, who's coming up here right quick. Look at the speed he's got, this guy. And then he's going to come back and give it back to me, and I'll show you the research assistant. Okay, Eddie, this is your... There you go, okay. Let's hope it works. That's not the... And we're doing this for security purposes because he's got rights that I don't have. We have separation concerns. Shiro.
Let's see, my screen isn't showing. Where's my screen at?
It's coming.
No, it's not.
He'll get it. There it is.
Okay, perfect.
Here you go.
Okay, so as John was mentioning, this is our new export request module. Pretty much the same, right? You'll come here to my request. Now, I have kind of like full access, so that's why I'm seeing kind of a lot of different requests coming in, but you'll create a new export request. We'll select for academic publication, and then we'll select a project user. And then we'll put in some text in there explaining it. You'll select your file. So I'll show you a couple of examples, right? We'll use this company file, right? We're going to submit the export request. It's going to give you kind of a disclaimer, an AI disclaimer letting you know that AI is going to be used here. It's going to give you kind of like a cost explorer, kind of letting you know how many tokens it's going to take for this export request, and then we're going to submit the export request. It's going to process, it's going to analyze, and then it's going to complete the request. Now, John mentioned there's kind of like a two-step review process for that first cursory review. That export request will come here, and you'll see there was kind of like an analysis made for the PII on the file, and so far everything looks good, right? And this is kind of like your first kind of like review. Doesn't mean we don't need to review it, it's just kind of assisting us with that review and giving a heads up. So if we click this button here, we'll kind of see the different data points, the confidence score, and that there was no PII in there, right? As soon as we go to approve this, again, internally, we get this disclaimer as well that we've kind of taken a look at the file, even though AI took a look at it and kind of marked it as no PII. I'll go ahead and do a second request. And again, we'll select a purpose. And I'll select this file that has customer data in it. Or sample data. Yeah, sample customer data. Again, we're going through the same process. And if I come here, now we're seeing there's kind of an indicator there that kind of gives us a heads up that there's something wrong with the file. So if we come and take a look at it, now we're seeing kind of the different kind of like highlighted sections of that file. Let us know what's wrong with it, right? And we're still working on it. We're still trying to improve it. So this is kind of like the initial setup.
Eddie's saying it's a MVP, so it's minimally viable, and it's a pre-decision all for the federal government to allow us to have it. Well, we're pretty confident. The second one is a research assistant demo. Hopefully you can go to the next, my HDMI, please. You got it. There we go. What is a research assistant? Well, we've built onto our platform, we've put an air-gapped LLM from Bedrock, and I'm going to show you how that works here in a second. I'm running it on my laptop. I'm going to turn off my Wi-Fi, and I'm going to show you guys that we can do this inside the ADRF. So I'm simulating the ADRF. And what it does is we containerize the LLM, and then we put it on Bedrock, or we use Bedrock service, or we use a localized LLM from Bedrock on EC2, if you're familiar with Amazon's products. And then if we're on EC2, we use a GPU just to speed up the analysis. I'm on an M3 Silicon chip on my laptop, so it's about 80% less efficient, but it still works just fine. And we're able to then allow you to select the model that you're going to use within the tool. But what I'm going to show you is how the research assistant really works. Let me show you that. But before I do, I just want to show you a little bit about what containerization is. If you've never heard, this is level setting. This is when you have something you need into an environment, you can basically put it, think of like a shipping container. You can put your application into all of its environmental variables, put it in a container, and then you can add that to another environment and then like unzip it, is another way of thinking of it, and it will just run in that container. And that allows us to promulgate code and product and architecture super fast. And even though we're showing all these LLMs and export assistant, the reason why we're able to do this is because of this Dockerization, this microservice architecture is the key word that a lot of people use at parties. They say stuff like that. Okay, so let me show you real quick what that looks like. I'm going to turn off, my Wi-Fi is not even on, so we'll just turn it off. I'm going to show you the containers so you can see it. I'm running an application here just so I can show you two different versions of this, and then I'm using in Docker itself, because this is a client-based Docker, I'm able to show you the models. There's two models that I have. I have a model that's approved, the Gemma 3, and I have a model that's not approved as for testing purposes, just to see what it is. Again, we're not using real data, I just wanted to see how it works. What have I done? So inside our ADRF, we have, if you look right here, I've got oops, let me just expand this over. I've got this thing that says local DRM. That's my Docker repository model runner running. And I've got code inference happening right here. So I can say hi, and it will come back. It's going to connect to my Docker container again, and it says, okay, what do you want? It can say, why is the sky blue? It says, I'll tell you it's blue because blah, blah, right? But I can also take things like, here's my SAS code, because I'm using the non-approved, but Gemma does this well. I'm just going to put this code in here and can say, can you help me convert this to R? And it's SAS, it's going to know. I'm just going to do this. You guys do this with GPT. But this is inside the ADRF. This will be built in the ADRF. And there it is. It's starting to convert it. Super good at this stuff. And it makes code memorization. I know Ekaterina hates to be pointed out, but she would love it. This is great stuff, right? Because it really helps. But let's say I don't have VS Code and I'm using SAS or something else. I could use, we have this built. It'll be built in here. I'm just doing localhost here for now. I've got the same chat, and I can say, I can do the same thing. Do it again, please, or make convert this to. Let's see if it figures it out. I'm just using chat window. This would be available in that same export module that we showed, that kind of red pass. We'd have that same sort of chat bot in here. And it's going to take a minute more because this is running on a web client, not just direct. But it did all those things. It could update your SQL code. It could improve your pivot tables, everything inside the ADRF. Again, this is all great stuff. It's R&D. Last year I showed the export modules, sort of like this kind of R&D stuff, if you guys remember last year. And this year, we're showing kind of R&D on how they export. By this time next year, this will be fully adopted in the ADRF using VS Code or a chat window like this as far as the export module. So anyway, and I'll hand it back over to Didem. Yeah.
Thanks so much, John, Rich, and Eddie. That was the end of our presentation. I want to now open the floor for questions you might have, or feedback, or suggestions that we should be working for the ADRF.
You have a question back there? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, please. Yes.
Hello. I was wondering about whether GitLab is still going to be rolled out.
Yeah, actually, GitLab. Can you hear me? No, it was on.
Yes.
Okay, all right. GitLab is actually in the ADRF now.
Oh,
It does require a license. We have to follow the rules just like everyone else. So if you have a license, we implement the license file, and it's available to you in your workspace.
oh, okay.
So, and it's Community Edition. I'm sorry, the Enterprise Edition. We got rid of the Community Edition just because it didn't work as well.
Got it.
So.
I was also wondering about like a chat functionality or secure screen sharing or something like that that would make it easier for people in like remote meetings to discuss, code that they're looking at.
We've been debating the whole screen sharing thing and like what that means. And we still need time to think about this because we are bound by the rules that we said we were going to provide. And we're wondering, do we allow users to go against their own rules, even though they said they wouldn't do that? Well, everybody's cleared in the room, but we don't know that. So we're kind of like, who owns that? For right now, we're taking a very conservative view, which is please don't share the screen unless you have a written permission to do so by your data steward, or maybe if it's federal government, your records management office needs through a PIA, privacy impact assessment, and that's a lot of work just to share on a screen. But
Got it.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'll also say to that that's also a question that we're getting from the data providers as well. And at times we actually have to say back like, oh, well, that's from your data governance rules. So what's been helpful though is that, because data governance and all the legal agreements can be challenging to go through, is basically realize like, oh, well, if that's on our end, what can we do to help push that forward? So there's definitely I would say we've been getting a lot of questions around that because, again, if we're working in a remote environment, it is very challenging. If I think of the ADA trainings where you're a team of 5 people working together and it's like, okay, which folder are you in? I'm in this folder. Oh, I don't see it. Oh, no, a different one. Sorry. That can be challenging. So yeah, those.
Just want to send someone a file path. It would be
Yeah,
great.
exactly. Yeah.
Hey, I mean, this is the user community. I mean, this is all what this is. So that type of feedback, like I just heard, we've known this, but to hear it again, it just reiterates the need that we have to really figure out how to do this the right way. And we're cutting edge. I mean, we're bleeding edge because I don't think anyone else has this ADRF kind of situation going on.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other? Yes.
So I have a few questions. First one is, how is this different from or complementary to the FSRDC and also the National Secure Data Service?
I'm not sure if those are FedRAMP approved.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know them that well. Do you?
So I can talk about the FSRDC. That will be the Census Research Data Center. So that is separate from what we have. We have the ADRF, and we're working directly with the state and federal partners. So they're bringing in their data to the ADRF to work on their projects. So the way that we approach how the users access, how the data stewards access to their data would be different, but those are complementary tools, right? So FSRDCs hold the census data, the researchers will submit a proposal, ask for permission to use the data for research purposes or policy purposes. Similar with us, we are holding administrative data, but we're working with state and federal partners directly. The data stewards are the ones that allow the data to come to the ADRF, and whoever is gonna use the data, again, they give the permission for that. We are hosting the data, helping them if they need the help with their analyses, with dashboard building, with reports, etc. So there we are providing different services. We are also providing training and allowing users to use different data sets in the ADRF.
Okay, so ADRF is more administrative data and FSRDC is more statistical data products?
Well, those are also sensitive data, right? So it's just those belong to the Census Bureau, right?
Okay.
So those are the data that Census Bureau holds and allows the users to use.
Right.
Whereas here, we are working directly with the states and the federal, with the data stewards to come to the ADRF.
Okay.
I do,
And then,
to your point though, yeah, because I talked with someone from the NSDS and they put it perfectly, was that it was basically, the difference is, it's not even necessarily the nature or the data themselves, it's the use of the data. So like the NSDS, that's for statistical purposes only. So some of the relationships that we have with the state, it is administrative data, but also like you can go and learn about like what Arkansas has been able to do in putting together a case management tool to help them not only so they can have data that are there for researchers to go do work, but then also they can leverage their own data to start answering and helping their practitioners on the ground.
Okay. And if you wanted to become an agency affiliated agency research partner, I think that's the term, to access the ADRF. What's the process there? You have to have some data or that you contribute that other people can use, or you can, go into that, become a partner so that you can then use that as your own research enclave without sharing it with others.
Yeah, it can be in different ways. So say you want to use some state's data, then you would need to get their approval to use their data, and then we'll help with getting the necessary contracts or signatures done. And as I was saying that, Christina, our contracts person, just walked in. So we help you with that. And then when you're in the ADRF, of course, we teach you how to use the ADRF. And then if needed, we help with the analyses, with the project. But it's really the data belongs to the data stewards, you know, whether it's state data, private data, federal data. We help you work first with them, and then after that, you come to the ADRF and we help you do the project.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right,
and
thank you.
I'll also add to that so a lot of it is building or finding the right relationships with the states. As Didem said, we're like at Coleridge, we don't own the data, right? We're not a data broker. We have a system that and partnerships that are built up, but I'm not sure if they see. But so one NASWA has the Multi-State Data Collaborative, which is just a really great project, and they've worked with their partner states to create an RFI process that you can apply to. So they've already done the legwork to say with states that are wanting to have work done to say, hey, here are the major research agenda items. And so, like for myself as a researcher, or back in the day, it can be very hard to know how you go make connections, right? Instead of basically just finding out, you know, by word of mouth. That is an awesome process because you can actually go learn from the states as to what they want. You can submit an application, and if it gets approved, then it also is a little bit more streamlined on the process of getting access because you've already gone through that hurdle of kind of doing the value demonstration. And they're here, and I know on Friday there's some special sessions, but get to know all those folks. There's just tons of great assets and relationships that can be built here.
Thank you for those questions. Yes.
You've got a whole list of them.
Hi, I have a question, but it's kind of different. How do you balance automation with accountability?
Say the last part again, automation and what?
Accountability.
Oh, how do I complementary?
Yeah.
What? Say again?
Accountability.
Accountability. Oh, great.
Accountability,
I'm
yeah.
so sorry. So part of our process for the automation, especially for AI, is we don't get to just do it. We have to follow these rules that are very stringent through the FedRAMP process. And also we have states, and you know, germane to the other question too, probably one of our biggest assets is our ability to link data between federal and state data when approved. It's got to be approved. And state to state data like Illinois unemployment and maybe Ohio unemployment if that were a concept. All of that stuff we do, we are very strict. So I'm the platform and he's the practitioner. We meet all the time, and then we have security. And so every time, for like AI, they wanted to see an archetype, an entire threat model. How would you hack your own stuff? And then they are asking us 1,000 questions against that to try to mitigate the risk to the lowest level. And we've gotten to a place where we think it's acceptable for them to approve. But it's very methodical. It's slowing down the race for AI just to because we can't afford a mistake that maybe a commercial organization could do. So we were very deliberate about it. That's why it's taken a year to get the export module into the environment. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's right.
That's a great question.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And with it too is the, especially for any data providers that are out there that are saying, what? No, it's just to be clear, this is a dev app, what Rich was showing, these are development tools. And so we're going through the process of getting the ability to do that approved. And even when it is approved, this is an opt-in situation, right? Like at all of this, so you were asking about balancing accountability and automation. Accountability is, I think of it as being kind of codified in the 5 safe security framework that we follow. And really that is an approach to making these data available that is a partnership with the data providers, making sure that their rules of governance are being met, not having, we're not rolling something out across the environment once it gets approved. It's every state, every agency may have a separate AI policy. So instead it would be setting it up to where you can opt in and make sure, like, if it works with your policy, but not that be now the new default.
I remembered my other question. I noticed you had an MCP toolkit. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so if you're familiar with MCP, and again, for just level setting the room, That's a way for other services in your AI process to answer your agents instead of having maybe the AI LLM agent answer. So it basically informs the LLM to do whatever work it needs to do. We're using Docker on my local laptop. We would only bring MCPs that are approved, like maybe AWS's or anything that's on AWS as MCP, just to keep the tokens low. I mean, it's literally a cost savings, but it's also an informative inference engine to allow the LLM to be able to predict better. I use MCP personally because I do a lot of coding. I probably have 10 of them running at all times because I want it to be good. And Eddie's an expert at this as well. Like we always joke about what MCP we're using today. But I will tell you, on my technology advisor, we have a user community board, right? This is fantastic with Robert and everybody. We have a technology advisor board, so I've got the senior developer at Meta, head developer at Meta is a very good friend of mine, former White House CIO and energy CIO. And we have a full professor at Harvard who's at the London School for Computer Science. And I brought up the MCP thing, and they said, hey, you wait in a few months, MCPs are going to be gone. And I'm like, what? But I'm starting to find the models are getting so mature that they don't need they're getting trained on billions and billions of instructions, and they don't need the MCP because they're that smart. And just to go a little bit down there, because I'm a geek, and it sounds like I like that you brought up MCP. I just heard a thing from the former CEO of Google tell us just yesterday on a conference. He was saying that general AI will happen, like being aware within the next year. It'll be as smart as the smartest human on Earth. And then in 3 years, AI will be smarter than all the humans put together in the history of mankind in one, and it'll be smarter than all of that. And that's to me, that's not a Labrador Retriever anymore. It's a little bit something more, So anyway, so things are changing. You got to keep up. It's amazing to me that it's not fast. So anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. Yeah.
Questions?
Oh.
Nope. All right.
Sorry,
Thank you so much.
That's really hard.